And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir.
Blake, apparently offensive linemen and defensive linemen can't get into fights during practice.
Okay,
I found that out today.
I will talk about it's my lead topic tonight on AYS.
Is it? Oh, I would assume so. Knowing
it's
you,
my
that
lead
makes
topic
a lot of sense.
because let me tell you what, Joe, we both played the game.
Yeah.
We both played the game at the next level. See, I mean, you can't see because of the light. Dude, my knuckle is shaped differently than the other knuckles because of a fight I got in. I literally have scars on my hand from probably where it was broken. Okay.
Uh-huh. Well, so we're referencing
you want to know how I got it?
Punching someone's helmet.
Punching someone square in his shit. That's how I got it.
So we're obviously referencing the Jordan Jefferson LSU defensive tackle. Got into a little bit of a scuffle in one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl, which is not out of the normal. Trevor Penning got drafted in the first round after literally getting into a fight every single rep 2 years ago. So again, not out of the normal. But I almost quote tweeted. I didn't end up doing it because I got caught up with other stuff. I was a long snapper in college. I got into fights in practice. Shit happens. I was barely on the field in practice, and I got into fights.
I can't tell you, when long snappers used to get in fights, the offensive lineman used to make over-under bets on how long it would last.
Well, the other thing, too, is a couple of times got into fights with other long snappers during practice, too. That happened a couple of times. Yeah.
I never got in a fight with an offensive lineman at practice, just D lineman.
Well, yeah, you're not going head-to-head with an offensive lineman.
You want to hear the funniest – you want to hear one of the funniest, like, fighting stories I've ever seen?
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy – okay, at Southeastern, all right? I mean, long, lean guy. His name was Luis. I lived with him, tight end, all right? So he gets in a scuffle. Everybody liked him, but this new little freshman didn't even know who he was. Dude loves Jesus. Loves Jesus. I mean, I'm talking about, like, praise the Lord, oh my soul, like Pastor Luis, okay? My roommate. God bless him, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So this freshman tries to fight him one day during camp. So he hits him with like a wide karate stance, and Luis calf kicks him. Like MMA calf kicks him. And everybody's like, oh, we knew he knew that shit. You know, like you see guys like, and he's 6'4", 235 pounds, like just shit with rock. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, he knows that stuff. You know how like Denzel, Denzel knows like karate and shit. Like Steve all knows this shit. That's Luis. He calf kicked him. Freshman didn't do anything else.
The only thing I'm going to say to that, not a fan of kicking during a football fight. Any other fight situation, I'm good with.
Him. They were squared up and he calf kicked him. I mean, what are you doing, Conor McGregor? I mean, dude just calf kicked him. I was like, damn, son.
Oh, my God.
Right. I mean, okay.
I feel like most football fights are just a lot of quick shoving. Helmet gets ripped off. That's usually the extent of it.
Calf kicked him. Best thing I've ever seen. Most of them are pretty dumb. They're more wrestling fights than me. All right.
Yeah, usually someone drags somebody to the ground. That's usually kind of what happens. There's occasionally someone will punch a helmet.
You know who's in a dogfight right now, though?
Tennessee.
Man, dude, we got some stuff to talk about tonight here with Tennessee. If you hadn't seen it, the NCAA for what let me say it like this. Because I'm going to stick up for Tennessee, but let's also call out the truth too. Mm-hmm. All right, like let's talk about the truth. Tennessee came out guns blazing, Joe. Pew, 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 pew. Guns a-blazing for Tennessee. What is the NCAA doing here? I mean, everybody is doing this. What are we doing?
Yeah, we've kind of reached this point where it feels like the NCAA is, I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like they're directionless. It feels like they're just
regain power.
But it doesn't even feel like they did this from a point of strategy. This is such a unthought out plan. It just doesn't seem well prepared.
All right, we'll get into this in just a minute, but I'm going to give you a question to think about before we get to the break.
Okay.
Now, let me throw this out there to you now. If he's on a booster's private jet and he's doing things that don't fit guidelines, a rule was broken now. They didn't say that they were guilty. They said, hey, listen, we have reason to believe that you took a high school kid that you were recruiting on a booster's private jet, which is not they worded it wrong. They should not have said it's an NIL thing. What they should have said, recruiting violation.
Well, that's where, right, that's the really good point here, is that the NCAA's approach is flawed. It's directionless because this isn't really an NIL issue. It is a recruiting violation like you talked about. The NIL aspect of it, and there's a really good quote that I'm going to bring up from Chancellor Plowman that said, the guidelines have been really vague for NIL. And to call this an NIL violation it's baseless. It doesn't make any sense. I'll save kind of the full breakdown here, but you're absolutely right. Their whole legal case, their whole case that they're bringing against him, it just does not have the substance that would make sense for what they're trying to do if they are trying to regain power.
Well, I can't believe I gotta be the one to do this. I do think that there's
don't be the one who does.
Well, hold on now. I do think that there's like, we got to talk about, hey, are they investigating something that went down that was like a rule was broken? Like, we can't just say that a recruiting violation wasn't broken and you got the kid on a plane with a booster. Right? I mean, like, we got to be a little bit real here now. Okay, we'll say
we'll
talk about that. Also, Jeff Hafley, it's just reported the Boston College head coach is heading to the Packers. Our good buddy Josh Pate has been kind of hinting around this for weeks. I wouldn't say that, he's prominent, but Joe, I mean, a head coach at a Power 5 school is going to the NFL to be a position coach. You don't see that every day.
Yeah, I think that the angle we're going to take here, because let's be honest, Boston College head coach leaving. This isn't 1990, early 2000s when Matt Ryan was there and when Doug Flutie was there. This isn't the same Boston College that was competitive. They're fine. They put out some decent teams. They're scrappy. Them losing their head coach does not really move the needle for me. We're not going to watch them pull a sitting head coach from a big program. They're probably going to end up bottom of the barrel with whoever they end up picking. But you just brought up what Josh Pate has been saying for months now on his show. He's been saying it on Twitter. We've even talked about it a little bit. We're at the point now, coach publicly has this thought, feels like I'm just trying to recruit my roster and I want to coach football. I don't want to do any of that stuff. And if you're at a job like Boston College, I don't blame him. I really don't blame him. And that's what to me is the whole topic here, is how many more of these guys are we going to start to see do this, leave these lower level jobs?
Did you listen to AYS last week? When I talked about the front office thing?
I didn't catch that.
I mentioned it on here. Okay. Teams and programs. Alabama just did it. Ole Miss has done it. Okay. Which nobody really talks about. A&M is doing it now. LSU just did it. Ohio State is doing it. Joe, you have people that are now going to be considered general managers. They're going to take these type of roles off of the head coach. Hey, man, I'm your head coach. I am your coach. I'm not your NIL advisor. I am not your, transfer portal advisor. You talk to so-and-so over here. I want you. Like, listen, I want to recruit you. I want you here. But you're going to have like what, I'll give the LSU example. An Austin Thomas is leaving Lane Kiffin. You want to know why Lane Kiffin was trolling LSU? Because the guy that's dealing with all of his portal and NIL stuff just walked out the door because LSU offered him $300,000 more a year. That's the reason why he's out the door, right? Like, teams are doing this because guys like Kelly, Georgia's done it. Georgia, you literally had Kirby tweet out the collective link. People they're not. I am your coach. I am not your transfer portal advisor. You want to be here, be here.
This is the world that we now live in. And a program like Boston College theoretically could have a general manager, but we don't see a lot of them. I know, like, Vanderbilt's an example of a school that has a GM, which feels really, really random that they have a GM and they have the money to afford to have a GM. But this is the direction that we're going in. And I think that maybe eventually we do have a little bit more structure, but this is where we're going, and more coaches are going to end up leaving.
No doubt. Also, DJ Durkin to Auburn, I think a really good move for both parties. We'll talk about that. And then if we have time, we'll get to the first-year expectations of Jonathan Smith at Michigan State. I can wrap that up in a sentence. You ready? Get to a bowl game. That's it. That's your expectation.
I think they can too. I know that we're gonna get to it, but I think that they can. Yeah,
we'll see. All right, let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline.ag, guys. If you haven't done so already, go over to our Twitter too. Hit that follow button. We probably need to be going live on Twitter too, Joe. Well, I guess we could talk about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Regardless, follow us on Twitter. If you're on Facebook, hit the like and share. Joe, I'm posting all of our links or all of our short videos on Facebook as well. So if you want to catch the show on Facebook, go to AYS Sports to do that. Wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and notification bell as well. Joe, let's talk about our good friends at BetOnline. What's going on at Tennessee? We discuss that next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. We're back. Texas isn't. Oh, I feel so good to say. Feels so good to say that. Just messing with our good friends over at the University of Texas. All right. So, Joe, yesterday, let me come in a little bit differently. Okay. I kind of got something paused, but caught in my throat. So you can have a point. End point here. All right. Joe, yesterday, Tennessee, they weren't given a notice of allegations, but were told by the NCAA that they were being investigated from NIL recruiting violations against now their starting quarterback. I'm going to try to pronounce his last name. You always help me with this. Nico Iamaleava.
That was actually really close. I'm not going to correct you.
Oh,
it's the closest that you.
Yeah.
Wait. Iamaleava. Actually, you said it so correctly. I think now I forgot how to say it. Nico Iamaleava. Wait, now I can't say it.
Nico
you said it correctly. Yes, Nico Iamaleava.
For
I believe
the rest
is the correct
of this
way.
segment, his last name, we're referring to him as Nico. But
yes, one of the hardest names in college football.
In life, buddy. Okay, life. All right. Regardless, Tennessee is under investigation for this. Let me start off here in just saying this. I stand with Tennessee. I agree with their chancellor coming out guns blazing. Pew, 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 pew. I'm with her. I'm with the governor, the attorney general. Look, man, we just paid you a crap load of money after everything that just happened with Jeremy Pruitt. Think about this, Joe. They fined Tennessee. Tennessee pays them, I think it was well over $10 million, $10, $15, $20 million, whatever that was because of the Jeremy Pruitt thing. The very next year, they're back in hot water again. Take them on, Tennessee. But I will admit the NCAA messed up from an NIL perspective. You can't label this as an NIL issue, right? You're not investigating from NIL. Joe, if that kid was on that plane, with the booster, it is a recruiting violation. So let's not act as if he is on a plane with a booster, which is being alleged of what happened here, that is a level 1, level 2 recruiting violation. What are we really discussing? Are we discussing the way that the NCAA attacked Tennessee on this? Fine. Stand with you. But if they're investigating the kid being on a plane with a booster, okay, well, I can see why you have a regulating body doing that.
That's the whole point here, Blake. This is the whole, you're bringing up you're perfectly setting this up here. We can't even properly talk about this because the NCAA is so goddamn, I almost said F, so goddamn vague about all of these guidelines for NIL. They did this deliberately. They were pissy the minute that they were the ones who lost in court a couple of years ago. And they said, here's a very vague list of guidelines of what you can and can't do with NIL, because they didn't want to put the effort in and they wanted to watch everything run amok and everybody complain about it. And we're now sitting here trying to break down an investigation that they're operating in that doesn't make any sense. You just made the point here. This isn't NIL related. This is recruiting related. It's a recruiting inducement. This has nothing to do with NIL. Nothing. They're two unrelated entities. And the fact that they're putting them together proves the point that they have no base for this claim. And on top of it, they need to quickly realize they need to get with the times and ignore the fantasy world that money was not involved with the inducement of recruiting of college athletes. Something needs to change. It's total bullshit. And you brought up Chancellor Plowman made this statement. I want to read her statement that she had. The leaders of intercollegiate athletics owe it to student athletes and their families to establish clear rules to act in their best interest. Instead, 2.5 years of vague and contradictory NCAA memos, emails, and guidance about name, image, and likeness has created extraordinary chaos that student athletes and institutions are struggling to navigate. What does the NCAA expect when they have done no effort to clearly painting the picture on what they can and can't do? And the only way that they show us is by punishing people. It is bullshit.
I agree with everything you just said, but I'm going to add on. Okay. It is. You know what the problem that I have with it is, at least for me? I don't mind structure. I don't mind there being a regulating body. I'm going to be a little honest. I don't even mind the NCAA investigating if the kid was on a plane with a booster. Oh,
right.
Okay.
Right.
Fine. But this is why when Charlie Baker, it was announced that he was going to be the new NCAA president, why I came on this show. I went on my show. I went on the other 4 radio shows I do every single week and said he is going to fail. How can you open up an investigation as big as Tennessee's and use NIL as a problem versus saying, hey, this is the basis of our claim. We had the kid, an eyewitness, a testimony, whatever it may be. We have a kid on the plane with a booster. Joe, just throwing this out there, you somewhat did that to Florida State. Like they just.
Well, that was a little more cut. That was a little more cut and dry.
But it was the same. It was the same difference. It's the same difference. Hey, we're not going to announce it. We got Alex Atkins, their OC, red-handed. You know what, Joe? Nobody said a damn word. We're like, oh, okay. Sounds legit.
Well, because, to talk about that, though, I agree it's the same thing. But that to me was a little bit more cut and dry. And it was a little bit less published because all it was him driving a prospective transfer player to a booster's house.
By the way, which
yeah.
But by the way, you know why they're not going to win this? If Florida State pursued it, they wouldn't win it because the Florida State law says that he can. The Florida State law says that coaches in the Southeast, I think all 16 SEC teams, as an example, in their state, a coach can have a conversation about NIL. It's like all of them passed it. Driving them there is the same thing. Now, I will backtrack what you just said. If they used a private jet to go pick him up to bring him to Tennessee to talk about NIL, well, then it is an NIL related issue.
Why are you backtracking like this? Why?
I'm not backtracking. What I'm saying is the way that they're attacking it publicly, at least the way that they have announced it publicly, they gave Pat Forty something so vague that makes him look even more sus, as the kids say. That dude's so sus. Makes it look so suspect, okay? Pat Forty reported, breaking the news, sources. It could be, in his quote, intense. What? That's the official statement? All I'm going to say here is I'm with you. I stand with Tennessee on the way that they attacked you. That's like saying, hey, man, you killed somebody when you ran a red light, right? Like, hey, we're coming after you for something, but we're going to charge you for murder instead of running the red light. I stand with Tennessee on that. But there's parts of me, though, too, Joe, that asked the question, well, did they break a rule here? Because that honestly should be what we're all talking about.
Right. The problem is in that where we're at now, and this whole issue has now become ridiculously convoluted because there's an investigation, and now the state of Tennessee is suing the NCAA, and then the NCAA has a statement in relation to the suit that is related to the investigation. It's like this weird merry-go-round that's happening with everything just, swirling around. There's just like different lines connecting to every little different piece to this. It's a joke at this point. That is where we have reached this level with NIL. And I know that it's something that you and I yell about all the time. But
if they broke a rule, are they not changing? Because I saw what they did for Florida State. I'm seeing what they're doing. Joe, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just asking the logical question. If they broke the rule, if what they're doing, I again don't want to fight over the semantics of how they announced it. But if they're investigating them on a rule that they broke, Joe, I got to be a little honest. And everybody calls me the SEC homer on this show. Everyone plays the SEC homer. Joe, am I crazy for not wanting to know if they're out there breaking rules with boosters?
Well, what I'm trying to get at here is that I think that the rule being broken and the rule breaking occurring here, it feels ticky-tack in a way. Like, how many other instances can we find and easily attack other programs for doing something similar? Like, we just talked about a Florida State just did something similar.
If it's ticky-tack, okay, then number one, why did Tennessee react the way that they did? Okay.
Because it's bullshit. It's again, it is total bullshit that they're being the ones held accountable. They were just made an example of, and they're trying to be made an example of again. As we talked about, Charlie Baker and the NCAA,
agree with that.
They're trying to use them as an opportunity to prove that they can still bring down the hammer on NIL.
You're not making an example of them. You know how I know that?
How?
Because last week, they literally came out with a statement about the same type of situation with the University of Florida with Jaden Rashada.
That is...
How is it different? You got a 5-star quarterback that went to the Southeast, went from the West Coast to the Southeast. How is this any different?
Because that circumstance is so much more complex because of the rug pull with the money that was offered to him and the non-follow through by the NIL collective. That is a very, very different situation.
But Joe, you're fighting over a semantic.
I'm not fighting over a semantic.
Yes, you are. Can I tell you why? Because I see everybody on Twitter saying they're trying to make an example out of Tennessee. What the F word do you call Florida?
All of these examples, they're on a spree right now. They're on a spree. Florida State, Florida, and now Tennessee. And I wouldn't be shocked if we don't find out that there's another one that comes up in the next couple of weeks.
You know who it's going to be?
They're trying. Charlie Baker came in and said, we need to start, putting our nuts on the table and bringing the hammer down on schools in order to reestablish power. And I honestly, the whole point I'm trying to get at here is that this is going to blow up in their face because we're going to get continual countersuits. And the NCAA released a statement saying that the countersuit just merely exacerbates the Wild West narrative of NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff. And I completely disagree. The whole point of these countersuits is to establish that the NCAA is in no position to hold accountable these universities for wanting to get players to come play for their school. There is an antitrust point here. That's what I'm trying to say here, is that the NCAA, because it is the only entity in college athletics, that they can't prevent free trade from occurring between an athlete and an institution from negotiating for why a certain player wants to go play there.
But that's not what they said they're investigating on.
I know. I understand that.
Okay, so again, we're having this whole argument.
Wait. But the whole investigation is not purely only the playing thing. It's also that was one of the most highly covered recruitments in the NIL era in terms of monetary value that was attached to a player's name. It was so publicly covered that this kid was getting $13 million.
Who? That was what? Or are you talking about Nico, or whatever the number was? Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
There was a fat number that was publicly covered and spoken about freely as if it was common knowledge that this kid was getting this money. That's where this whole thing comes from. They're probably trying to use the whole private jet thing as a way of saying this was also part of the painting the picture of why this was illegal and violated our rules and, and whatnot. My whole point is, go ahead.
Joe, as someone who's done investigations for a decade, yes, if I got you for shooting somebody, I'm going to look into other things that you've done too. I mean, what are we, again, what are we talking about here? I got you. I got him. I got you. You're on a plane with a booster. I got reports everywhere. And then the NCAA comes and says, hey, man, this is reported on. We're not giving you a notice of allegations. We're investigating the situation.
Yes.
Again, with Tennessee, on the way it feels like the NCAA is attacking them, I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you on all of that. Can I get down to the meat and potatoes now?
Yes.
Can I get past all the ticky-tack bullshit?
Yes.
Is NIL this? Is NIL that? That's not what I care about anymore, Joe. We're having the same argument every day. We had the same argument last week. My question is going to start becoming, you know what it's going to be? Did they break the rules? And you know what else? If the NCAA is not going to enact it, Greg Sankey, time to step up. If you really want to make it the Wild Wild West, if you really, really, really want to make it the Wild Wild West, let the NCAA go. Let there be no enforcement whatsoever. Because you know what really will happen? Because do you really think that the conferences are literally going to investigate their own schools the way the NCAA, who is a third party, would? No, they're not going to do that.
They're not.
So again, I can't believe I got to be the guy that comes out and says, all right, now, I'm not trying to defend the NCAA. The way they're everything.
Sounds like you are.
From Tez Walker to all the other things that we talk about, Joe, that they have been done. That's fine. The only thing that, I'm trying to bring to light, the only thing in these arguments that never comes to light is, did they do it?
But okay, here, this is the issue here. They probably did. But the point I'm trying to get at here, by constructing this investigation, by doing the investigation, by trying to hand out potential allegations once the investigation is completed, it's not a matter of if they did it. It's a matter of if the rules are valid or not, and if they're bullshit or not. And frankly, they are bullshit.
Brandon in the chat, he is a booster. If you are doing something like what he did, I'm sorry to tell you, in the eyes of the law, you are a booster from, like, for example, in the state that I live in. Joe, we've had conversations about NIL on this show. When we pay the kid, okay, if I pay the kid, it goes by the whatever state that he's in. Let's just say he's in the state of Louisiana. Well, I know the conversations I can and can't use. If I've already paid another kid, through an NIL deal, I'm considered a booster. Trust me, Joe, I've been through these conversations.
Okay.
Anyway.
Forget that part for a second. I'm just trying to say, though, that the rules themselves, we all are in agreement here as college football fans, are ludicrous.
No doubt.
They're ridiculous. They are limiting the growth and the development of the sport, and it is such an old-timey approach to governing the game, the way that it's been handled. And I think that what you're bringing up, we get closer and closer every single day with little minute, stupid things like this that get blown out of proportion towards moving to conferences operating independently. We're getting closer and closer to that. And I really don't think that we're that far off from, as you're talking about, Greg Sankey eventually taking over. And I think there's a reason why a lot of times when things like this happen, he doesn't speak. Like you don't really hear a lot of damning statements against the NCAA by him.
I gotta say this now. On now he's got to. Now he doesn't have a choice because you have the NCAA coming after. Here's the way that I see that. You got him hitting two of his schools in the SEC with Florida and Tennessee, right? A team, let's call it what it is. He's probably trying to pluck Florida State out of the ACC.
Yeah.
Seems like they're coming after somebody, and it's not any one of those three universities. It sounds like they're going after Greg Sankey.
And I look, at the end of the day, as I've kind of said here, them trying to swing power around is only going to burn them. I mean, if we have a government, a state government willing to spend the time to countersue the institution that is the NCAA, I don't understand how the NCAA.
Well, they're filing for a restraining order, a temporary restraining order by February the 6th. Yeah, I'm with you. Joe, I hope they win it. Like I do, but again, like I feel like I'm going to be the comments are going to be so nuts because they're going to be like, Blake's defending the NCAA. No, that's not what I'm trying to do. No. I'm trying. Joe, can we not have some law? You know. Here's my last point on this because we do got to get moving. Here's my last point on this. I am so tired of everybody and their mama going on social media and say, we need law and order, because in just a second, we're going to talk about Jeff Hafley and why he left Boston College. It was for reasons like this. Okay. Main reasons like this. And yet when someone says, okay, I stand on the ground with you on everything else. For once, can we say, all right, can we start regulating this? You know how
Wait, yeah, I understand. By setting precedent is the way that you start regulating things. But the problem is they're trying to set precedent without having established, clear, well-written, well-developed rules regarding this. They don't have anything to base off of. That's where my problem comes, is that they're setting an investigation based on vague guidelines that they've sent in memos and emails to say what you may or may not be able to do. They need to, instead of saying you may or may not be able to do things, to you can do this, you can't do this. I just think their approach is really stupid. It's only going to create more enemies. If they actually say, here are the new official NIL rules, here is what you can and can't do. And honestly, with what Charlie Baker had originally proposed a few months ago, as long as he comes out and says the schools can enter within an NIL agreement with a player as long as they do X, Y, and Z, the school is allowed to pay said player. That's what we need to get to. That's what needs to happen.
I agree.
And I would hope that this expedites it.
The NCAA is like the guy at the bar that walks up to a girl with big hoo-has and says, nice tits, as his pickup line.
Yeah, sure.
Since we're talking about Tennessee, Dolly Parton-sized tits. Elks 70 says, Nico, I'ma leave you because NIL sanctions. Quote unquote,
that's a good
with a $2 super chat.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. That's a really good one. Okay, you want to get to Jeff Hafley next?
Yeah.
Okay. Moments ago, or I guess, Joe, an hour ago, it was reported on by Pete Thamel that Jeff Hafley is leaving Boston College, the head coach, going to the Green Bay Packers. In a statement released by Pete Thamel when speaking with Hafley, he says, and I'm quoting here, the reasons for taking this coordinator job are rooted in both overall the state of college football and the opportunity to work for one of the best NFL, most respected franchises. Your thoughts on Hafley leaving Boston College and going to Green Bay?
Yeah, this is something that's been slowly talked about more and more in coaching circles and just the general college football landscape. It's something that I feel like it's brought up a ton in just non-broadcasted conversations when you just talk to people that are within the industry, that we were really aggressively and expeditiously approaching a period of time where a lot of coaches are just getting super burnt out by the way that the current college game is structured. And the way that this has led to it where, Hafley brings up this thought of having to recruit his own roster to stay, the fundraising that comes with it, that the extra money you now need through NIL to pay players to come play for you. Your premier recruits need some sort of money that's coming with them coming to play for your program. But the biggest part here now, too, is that the year-round nature of trying to recruit is now increasingly more and more difficult, where it used to just at one point be the coaching cycle. There were a few months off that you got to take during the summer. Guys would come on campus, they'd be with the strength staff, and the coaches could take those vacations if they needed to. That's not happening anymore. That stuff's not happening at all anymore, where the whole new early signing period has made it impossible for recruiting to be done in a normal fashion. We saw guys like who's the Texas quarterback that just went to Duke?
Malik Murphy.
Perfect example. Backup quarterback on a college football playoff team has to enter the portal because he wants to go find an opportunity while his team is preparing for the college football playoff. It is just a massive mess, as we just spent 14 minutes talking about in the last segment, and we've spent months talking about it on the show. It does not surprise me that a guy like Hafley, who's in his 40s, wants to put himself in a position to coach for a long time and not have to run himself into the ground. And the crazy part is that 10 years ago, you ask any coach, they'd rather coach in the college game. The NFL is a very high-pressure situation. There's a lot of jobs in college football, like Boston College, where you could go there, you get your team to a bowl game, you're doing enough work, and you're not going to get fired. The NFL is not like that. If you don't go on multiple playoff runs, you're out the door and your ass is looking for a new job. So it's crazy that we're at this point now where things have transitioned this far, and I would not be shocked if next cycle we don't see more head coaches do this and take coordinator jobs.
I agree, because I'm hearing it from people, Joe, that coaches that don't want to be in college football anymore. I know Josh Pate has talked about it. Our good buddy has talked about it. I've heard it from multiple SEC coaches, multiple ones. They say the same thing every day. Joe, we've had this conversation. We actually had this conversation about a month and a half ago on here, on this show. Can I throw something out there to you?
Is it going to piss me off?
Also 22 and 26 as a head coach.
Oh, yeah, he's not a great head coach.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's a great defensive mind. He's a great defensive coordinator. He's going to be fine. Sure, the NFL will bode well for him. I actually think he's going to be better in the NFL because he's just more of a mastermind and a play caller. He's not, once you get in the weeds and all the recruiting and stuff like that. I'm going to call a little bit of BS. I will admit that there are a lot. Talk to him daily. There are a lot of coaches that don't want to be here. I also think that this is a step up for him, and his quote in saying that, let's just call it what it is. It's horseshit. It's better to be the DC at Green Bay than the head coach at Boston College.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So he could have just said that this is an opportunity that I don't believe that I can pass up and leave it there. He's using this as an excuse to his players and everybody else around him. I agree that where we're at, he's also 22 and 26.
Okay. So I get what you're saying. I push back slightly. I think that you look at the circumstance. I agree but disagree. He clearly at one point, Hafley was considered, in the first couple of years of him having this job, was considered to be a next up and comer. Defense coordinator at Ohio State, came in pretty quickly, and I think that he upset Clemson in his first or second year, did some pretty great stuff at Boston College, and then he stagnated and he took a step backward, and clearly has shown no signs of progression since then. I think to that point is the real reason why he stagnated dug himself into a hole. And the only way that would have led to something is next year he would have gotten fired, and it would have been hard for him to get a good job. He probably would have been like a linebackers coach or a DBs coach in the NFL or at another Power 5 program. That part I don't disagree with, but I don't think he's making an excuse. I don't think he was making an excuse at all. I do think that his stagnation was caused by all the stuff that we're talking about here.
Sure. You're at Boston College.
Yeah.
You're at Boston College. I mean, you're not succeeding. I get why you're not succeeding for exact reasons of what you said. He's not wrong in that. It's an excuse to say that was the reasoning, though. I mean, Joe, if I leave a job and I say, hey, these are my reasonings, okay? Either they're wrong or right. They could all be right. That is the excuse that you're giving on leaving where you're at. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, I look, it's a step up for him. Yeah. Boston College is not a place.
He lucked out. He completely lucked out that he was able to get a better job in being able to
Our former colleague, if I'm not mistaken, knows him well. Jay Crane knows him. Calls him the wizard. Like, great defensive mind, great play caller. Sounds great. Remember, wasn't it Boston College and Kansas? Like, they knocked out when Kansas was ranked with Les Miles. Like, I think it was Hafley's first year. They had a really big win. I think it was like
it was Clemson,
maybe, or against Clemson.
That
whatever
was,
game, whatever game it was. All I would say is I think it's a step up for him. You know who I really hate it for?
Who?
The players. And I hate it for Boston College because now they got to find a new head coach. Joe, we're in February tomorrow. February. That is insane.
Well, I mean, I think that, okay, first of all,
you know who else I feel bad for? Those assistant coaches who now are likely going to get fired and new staff is going to come in.
That part is effed. Yeah, that part is effed.
It's really effed. That's why I feel like it's an excuse with him saying, hey, all these are my reasons, because he's putting a lot of people's jobs on the line.
Here's the one thing, though, that I will say to that, though. Boston College wasn't really a job. Yeah, unless they promote from within. Boston College isn't really a job that would have commanded any of the top candidates. I actually don't even think any of the mid-level candidates for any of these mid-level openings would have really been in play for them because of the region that they're in. Like, it just probably would not have made a ton of sense. I think that they're going to have no trouble grabbing who they're going to get. The only one that I will say that they could have grabbed, who's the guy that JMU just hired from Holy Cross? That is the only one that I would have made sense. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but JMU just hired Holy Cross as head coach, and Holy Cross was a really good football program for the past 5 years, which is in Massachusetts. That's the only one that they probably missed out on. Realistically, if they really wanted to, they probably could pluck him. I don't think that they're going to do that. They'll be fine looking for their next head coach. This isn't a program that's really winning the ACC.
I'm not worried about Boston College and finding a head coach. They'll find somebody to be their next head coach. They're not going to be head coachless. Okay. Yeah. I'm not worried about that.
Well, it just matters if it's a good option. Them promoting their defensive coordinator is not a good option.
Well, not only if it's not a good option, Joe, again, what are you going to tell the OC in DC? Okay. If the new head coach doesn't want them and wants to bring in his own guys, and then that trickle effect goes elsewhere. It's just an endless cycle. It's an endless cycle because let's just say, hypothetically, I don't know, but let's just say a coordinator in the SEC wants to finally be a head coach. Who's to say that somebody would not go and want to be a head coach somewhere? Like, I mean, you don't know where this search is going to go. That's all I'm saying is all I was trying to say is it's an excuse from him. Okay.
All right. Fair.
Dude, I feel like I'm get off my lawn. I feel like a dad right now. Like, the guy.
point at the sign when you say this of the reason why we do this show and people like it is because we yell at each other. I'm just going to
We're
keep
not
pointing
yelling
to the.
though. But see, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like we're debating.
No, yeah, but I'm saying that's why people listen.
Well, you can send in more super chats to make us go full time here. All right.
Yeah.
So about good friends at HomeField Apparel. We'll talk about DJ Durkin next.
Ruffino and Joe Show is brought to you by HomeField Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan, maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. Whatever it is, even Idaho, they have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code RuffinoJoe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO, Ruffino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
Something I think that guy from UConn's not going to hear.
He's getting drafted early.
Oh, okay. I don't.
He's going to be a top 50 pick. Christian Haynes is a dog.
Well, Christian Haynes got his shit pushed in today. That's all I got to tell you. Okay.
Didn't. He won that rep. What are you talking about?
No, he did not. He didn't win the rep.
I mean, he won most other reps too. I mean, that was a no-win rep. Nobody won that rep. No, Jefferson didn't win that rep.
I completely disagree.
I'm shocked that you and I disagree with one another.
Joe, if you're being pushed back into the quarterback and he couldn't get his feet set, he lost the rep. I don't care.
That's fair.
All right. Don't argue me on O-line play. Please,
that's
dear
fair.
God.
That's
all right.
Fair.
I mean, first off, he's got to set back more. Okay. Can I tell you what I thought about the rep? Honestly, honest to goodness.
Yes.
I think he leans back too much. Meaning,
yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, he leans way too back. He lost the rep. You know who else struggled with that?
Who?
Every other offensive lineman in the country.
He's a smaller offensive lineman too. He's like 6'2". So a lot of the smaller guys do end up kind of leaning a little bit too much.
He's expecting a massive hit, right?
Right. I just looked at that rep more as like a little more stalematy, where Jefferson maybe pushed him back a little bit. I don't think
a little bit.
I don't think it's like a clear cut one guy won over the other.
He clapped them chest cheeks. Oh,
I don't know, man. You don't win a rep and take off somebody's helmet though. You don't win a rep and then get and hit somebody in the head. You just don't.
I fully disagree.
You do that when you lose.
Myles Garrett still sacked Kyle Rudolph just because he pulled his helmet off and hit him in the head.
He wasn't going one-on-one with Kyle. He wasn't pass rushing Kyle Rudolph or Mason Rudolph. That was completely different.
Kyle.
I call him Kyle.
What his name is.
Whatever.
He looks like a Kyle. Oh, God. He lost the rep.
Sure.
Okay. Joe, it was reported yesterday that a guy who actually his last two stops, this will be his third stop in the SEC, DJ Durkin, staying in the SEC as a DC. He is going to Auburn with Ron Roberts leaving for Florida, which that's interesting in and of itself. But nevertheless, DJ Durkin to Auburn. Your thoughts?
This is an awesome hire. I was really stunned by the fact that DJ Durkin made it this far. And if people want to talk about what happened at Maryland, that's understandable. And it's a very complex issue. And I don't think that really fully paints his picture of him being a good head coach. It's not really a part of this conversation.
And he was cleared of all wrongdoing from a legal.
Yes.
I mean, like we need to make that clear too.
Yes. Which is why I don't want it. It's a complicated issue. Don't want to dive into it. Durkin, though, from 2022 to 2023 as Texas A&M's defensive coordinator, they were 19th and 25th in total defense. One of the seasons, I don't include the COVID year in 2020, but in 2021, when he was Ole Miss's DC, they were 51st, which is not great. And then when he was the defensive coordinator at Michigan,
it's really good.
Right. And then in 2015, when he was the DC at Michigan before he took the Maryland job for one season, They were 6th in total defense.
Right.
6th in total defense. So
who can call defenses?
The whole point here is that this is a really good talent developer. This is a really good recruiter. I just look at the group of guys that are coming out of this defense in this upcoming NFL draft class, and guys that transferred. Shamar Turner was there. Walter Nolan was there. LT Overton, McKinley Jackson, Edgerrin Cooper. There were a lot of really good football players that were on that defense that were really, really nice players. And I think that we're going to see now this crop of talent that was at Auburn, and they've been funneling in all these really good players from the region, all these young recruits, a lot of really good transfer portal players that are now going to be properly harnessed. I mean, heck, I think that we're going to see a lot of similarities with this development quickly of this Auburn defense, the way that we saw with Texas A&M, where despite it being a young group, they were coming out swinging. They were coming out fighting, and they played some really, really good football games in the time that he was the defensive coordinator.
I'm not going to give him the recruiting. That's Elijah Robinson, who's now the DC at Syracuse. Okay. So the reason I say that, Joe, is because I know of other SEC schools that had an opening from a DC perspective, and that point came up. That exact, like, who
they got Hughes, so they don't need to really worry about that as much. So I apologize for misspeaking on that.
Well, no, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Okay. I mean, now, Edgerrin Cooper, as an example, okay, look what he did with Edgerrin Cooper. Look, the kid, Joe, I could throw this dip can to where Edgerrin Cooper, from my house to where Edgerrin Cooper lives, okay? Like the kids from Covington, it's right down the road. Orgeron blatantly missed, even though he was told by yours truly, go get him. Who am I to say? The bottom line, though, is he has been a developer everywhere he's gone. I agree with you. Hugh is going to recruit his ass off. They're going to get things rolling. I don't really worry about him recruiting, really. That was just the question. DJ can call plays, man. Yeah. DJ can call plays. I mean, look, man, with a depleted roster, with a head coach that was fired last year in Jimbo, brother, did you see that? I mean, it wasn't until the fourth quarter when A&M started getting gassed that Jaden Daniels started making some moves late, right? Like he was really the only person all year that somewhat tried to bottle Jaden Daniels. So all I'm saying is the dude knows what he's doing. I think it's a great hire for Auburn. I will tell you something that I've heard, though. I heard he's a little quirky. But so
it fits right in with Hugh. Yeah, I was going to say that fits right in with Hugh,
right
if that's the case.
So, look, good for DJ. I hate, I think it kind of – can I tell you something? The first thing I thought about when DJ Durkin was – let me tell you the first thing I thought about when DJ Durkin was hired. You ready?
Yeah.
Boy, does it feel like Auburn's taking that state over. I mean –
that's that. So that's a really good point here, that this is now the next phase for Auburn being in closer competition with Alabama, because it felt like for the past 5 years, there was a lot of separation. And I think that they've, with everything that's gone on with the board and everything, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt to figure out what they're doing, but they recruited their asses off to bridge the gap a little bit more. They still have a little more work to do, but now they've got one of the better play callers in college football running that defense. I'm really optimistic that Auburn could possibly surpass Alabama. I know that Alabama fans get pissed at me when I
shocked in the slightest if they do.
I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Alabama this year. I wouldn't be shocked. They almost freaking did it with a way worse roster.
Yeah, and their roster got better, and Alabama's got worse.
Exactly.
So. Good hire. Look, you got a guy, and look, Hugh going to be calling plays. He doesn't want to worry about defense. Joey's got guys in the head coach who can be the head coach of defense. It's a perfect fit. Unless it's not a perfect culture fit from a paper-to-paper aspect, it's a perfect fit because Hugh doesn't want to be over there. He wants somebody that can run the day-to-day, everything that he's doing on defense. That's why I feel like it's a perfect fit.
Well, the craziest part about this is remember a month ago before the Saban, literally the week of the Saban news, we talked about how DJ Durkin's got to be Alabama's next defensive coordinator when Kevin Steele retired. We spent a ton of time talking about that. We did a whole segment just on
name came up for LSU. Boom, boom, boom. Bro, I'm hearing DJ Durkin. No, you're not, because they're not talking.
But the point is here is that look at the transition that we go in a month that DJ Durkin, I mean, even when DeBoer was hired, should have been who he hired. I think that would have been the much better hire for a, an established defensive coordinator at Alabama, but instead here he ends up at Auburn. Another team's loss is another one's reward.
Been in recruiting in the SEC, like, all right, now here comes the War Damn Eagle. Oh, damn eagle. A damn eagle starts flapping its wings. Caw. You ever, dude, can I tell you something? In 2008, 2009, I don't remember. Me and my buddy, Todd, went to Troy, to see some friends of ours, Troy, Alabama.
Okay.
But then went to the Auburn LSU game at Auburn. Cam Newton, whatever year that was.
Yeah.
No, Cam. Yeah, was it Cam Newton? I don't remember. I don't know if it was Cam Newton that time. I can't remember.
Was it the Nick Marshall year?
I don't remember. It might have been Nick Marshall. Maybe the kick 6 year. I don't remember. I can't remember. Both times that I've been to Auburn's football stadium, dude, it is so loud.
Mm.
It is so free. Nobody brings it up. Nobody.
When they're good. When they're good, man, they're fun.
Rolling in there, son.
Yeah.
Rolling. So I'm just going to say, the culture is there to be built. It's there to be built. So let's go, Hugh Freeze. Get it rolling. All right.
Let's go, Hugh.
I guess we'll get to Jonathan Smith on another day.
Yeah, let's do that Sunday.
Sounds good. Pro Bowl. You didn't hear? The Mannings are coaching.
Pro Bowl is the least entertaining.
It was pretty fun
sports.
Last year with the Mannings. The flag football. I'd rather that.
You couldn't pay me to watch that shit.
See you on Sunday. Peace.